What's going on, guys? It's your boy John the Liquidator coming back with breaking news hot off the press. So it looked like Caitlin Clark could be returning this week after all.
It's going to be scary from a backcourt standpoint because the two of them with the ball in their hands, without the ball.
That's a threat.
And as a post player, your eyes have to light up because if there's that much attention from the backcourt,
they're going to find you.
If you set screens, if you set early drags in transition, the sky's the limit.
Caitlin Clark has finally broken the silence, and the news is sending shockwaves through the basketball world. She's coming back. After weeks filled with rumors, frustrating injury updates, and endless debates about her future, fans now have their answer. The WNBA isn't just getting a star back, it's about to experience a seismic shift. This return isn't routine. It's a high-stakes moment that could redefine the Indiana Fever, shake the league, and reshape Caitlin's entire legacy. When the season tipped off, the expectations for Caitlin Clark were sky high. She wasn't just a rookie stepping onto the floor, she was the centerpiece of a franchise, the marketing face of the league, and the player fans traveled hours to see.
I know Rudy from Coming Out the Podcast. Shout out to Rudy. Rudy did a whole entire video breaking down what Holly Rose said. Is Caitlin Clark coming back within the next week or so? I personally wouldn't bring her back against the Minnesota Lynx, but also, depending on the severity of Sophie Cunningham's injury, I might not bring her back, period, for the rest of the season. I might play if Sophie can't come back, if it's not serious, then maybe we are talking about Caitlin Clark coming back. I did say when she went down and this period of time started to get longer and longer and longer and longer.
Every arena she entered buzzed with anticipation. Every shot she took carried the weight of a movement bigger than basketball. But instead of watching a season of dominance unfold, fans witnessed something far more painful. A battle between one of the most promising players of her generation and her own body. It began with what many assumed would be a minor setback. A groin injury forced Clark to the sidelines during a stretch when the Indiana Fever needed her most. At first, supporters believed it would just be a short recovery. But as the games went by and she remained absent, the conversations began to shift. Was the Fever doing enough to protect her from relentless physical play? Had the league underestimated just how much defensive pressure she was under every night? The questions were sharp, and the criticism wasn't just about her absence, it was about how the WNBA handled its brightest star. Still, there was optimism. Reports trickled out suggesting Clark was close to returning. Fans clung to insider updates, hopeful she would soon be back dropping deep threes and igniting sold-out crowds. And then, in a cruel twist, disaster struck again. A solo training session, Clark suffered a bone bruise in her left ankle. What should have been a step toward recovery suddenly turned into another painful roadblock. The news rattled not just Indiana fans, but the entire league. Instead of debating when she'd return, the conversation shifted to if she would return at all this season. Her timeline went from soon to uncertain, and then, for many, to unpredictable. Social media exploded with theories, doubts, and fears. Was this the beginning of a bigger problem? Could Caitlin's explosive style of play be putting too much strain on her body too early in her career? The Fever, already decimated by injuries to Ari McDonald, Julie Colson, and Sophie Cunningham, now faced the harsh reality of losing the one player who gave them hope. For a team expected to build momentum behind Clark, her absence turned what was supposed to be a breakout year into a season of survival. The franchise scrambled for solutions, but the truth was clear. Without Caitlin, the Fever weren't the same team. For Clark herself, the setbacks weren't just physical, they were emotional. Every time her name trended, it wasn't because of a highlight reel or a buzzer beater, but because fans were questioning whether she'd ever suit up again this year. The spotlight that once felt like a celebration now felt like a burden. And yet, through all of this, one fact remained. Caitlin Clark's story wasn't finished. The setbacks were brutal, but they only built anticipation. Every day she sat out, the hunger for her return grew louder, and the weight of expectation heavier. When Caitlin Clark went down, the silence inside arenas spoke volumes. Suddenly, the WNBA didn't feel the same. What had been a season bursting with momentum, record-breaking crowds, and viral highlight reels began to lose its shine. Fans still showed up, but something was missing. The energy, the electricity, the spark that only Clark seemed capable of generating. For the Indiana Fever, her absence was catastrophic. Guard depth collapsed almost overnight, with Ari McDonald, Julie Colson, and Sophie Cunningham all sidelined by injuries of their own. The backcourt became a revolving door, patched together with role players and rookies who were thrown into situations they weren't prepared for. What was supposed to be a dynamic, fast-paced offense suddenly looked stagnant and predictable. Without Clark's gravity on the floor, pulling defenders to her range, spacing shrunk, and the Fever struggled to create opportunities. Beyond Indiana, the ripple effects spread across the league. Ticket sales in markets where Clark was scheduled to play dipped noticeably. Broadcasters scrambled to keep ratings afloat, leaning heavily on rivalry matchups and veteran star power to maintain viewer interest. But the numbers made it obvious. When Caitlin wasn't on the floor, national attention wavered. The Clark effect wasn't hype, it was reality. Fans felt the void more than anyone. Every vague coach update, every insider leak, every blurry practice video became breaking news. Social media was flooded daily with speculation. Some begged for her return, others insisted she should take the year off to heal. The divide was sharp, one side arguing the Fever had no chance without her, the other warning that rushing her back could derail not just this season, but her entire career. Commentators fueled the fire. ESPN panels debated her absence as though it were a playoff result, with analysts question, owning how much the WNBA had tied its growth to a single player. Rival coaches admitted privately that the league just felt lighter without her presence. Even opposing players weighed in, and that's where the tension spiked. Sophie Cunningham, sidelined with her own injury, made a comment that echoed across the internet. Almost ready doesn't cut it at this level. For some, it was a genuine warning to protect Clark's long-term health. For others, it was a veiled critique that questioned her toughness. The narrative grew heavier by the day. Without Clark, the Fever weren't just losing games. They were losing relevance. And without her, the league itself seemed less urgent, less compelling. The WNBA's biggest storylines, from playoff races to MVP debates, suddenly felt like background noise compared to the singular question that dominated headlines. When is Caitlin coming back? Her absence didn't just expose Indiana's weaknesses, it exposed the league's reliance on her. That dependency was both a compliment to her generational impact and a warning sign of just how fragile momentum could be. And the longer she stayed out, the louder the whispers became. If the WNBA feels this different without Caitlin Clark, how much more pressure will fall on her shoulders the moment she returns? When people talk about Caitlin Clark, they don't just describe a good rookie, or even a promising young star. They describe a force of nature. And the reason her comeback feels so monumental is simple. Everyone remembers what happened the last time she came back from injury. It wasn't just a return, it was a statement that echoed across the basketball world. The stage was set against the powerhouse New York Liberty, a team that had looked unstoppable. Analysts predicted an ugly night for the Indiana Fever, a short-handed roster going up against one of the league's most stacked lineups. But Clark had other plans. In her first game back, she didn't ease into rhythm or test the waters. She erupted. 32 points, 9 assists, 8 rebounds, 7 three-pointers that felt like daggers from another planet. Each shot she hit wasn't just worth 3 points. It was a spark that set the arena on fire. The Liberty's undefeated streak, which seemed untouchable, ended that night. The Fever, written off as underdogs, suddenly looked alive again. That single performance flipped the script on their season. But more importantly, it reminded everyone of what makes Caitlin Clark different. She doesn't just contribute to games, she redefines them. Social media erupted immediately. Clips of her deep threes went viral within minutes. Fans flooded timelines with highlight reels, and hashtags with her initials trended globally. Even NBA legends couldn't resist weighing in. LeBron James tweeted, "CC Effect, welcome back," cementing her place as more than just a WNBA sensation. She was a global name. What separated that game from a typical stat-stuffing performance was the context. Clark wasn't coming back from a short rest or a minor tweak. She was returning from a stretch of absence where doubts about her durability and future were loud. She walked back into the brightest spotlight and delivered a performance so electrifying that it silenced every critic, at least for a moment. That's why her legacy is tied to these comebacks, because she doesn't just return, she dominates. Her ability to elevate her team goes beyond numbers. Teammates feed off her energy. Opponents stretch their defenses farther than they want to. Coaches on both sides are works to adjust entire game plans because of her range and vision. She isn't just a shooter, she's a gravitational pull. A player whose presence changes the geometry of the court. And that night against the Liberty proved it in a way that no debate or stat sheet could capture. Now, as fans wait for her next return, that memory fuels the anticipation. Can she summon that same magic again? Can she carry a battered Fever roster on her back and shock the league once more? The last time she was doubted, she turned the game into her personal stage. That's why the question isn't whether Caitlin Clark can come back. It's what incredible moment she'll create the second she steps back on the hardwood. Caitlin Clark's confirmed comeback isn't just another player returning from injury. It's the kind of moment that could reshape an entire season, maybe even the league itself. For the Indiana Fever, it's survival. For the WNBA, it's momentum. And for Caitlin herself, it's legacy. The stakes surrounding this return are unlike anything she's faced before. On one side, the Fever's situation is dire. With Ari McDonald, Julie Colson, and Sophie Cunningham already sidelined, Indiana's guard rotation has been decimated. The team has been forced to rely on makeshift lineups, patchwork offenses, and sheer grit just to stay competitive. Without Clark, they've fought for wins but lacked the spark to turn close battles into victories. Her presence instantly changes that. She doesn't just add points, she adds hope. One healthy Clark transforms Indiana from struggling survivors into dangerous spoilers, capable of stealing momentum from anyone. But with that hope comes enormous risk. Returning too soon could aggravate her injuries and jeopardize not only the rest of the season but the trajectory of her career. One wrong step, one awkward landing, and the conversation could shift from comeback to career setback. That's the razor-thin line Clark is walking. If she waits too long, Indiana's playoff dreams might collapse completely. If she rushes back, she gambles with her body, and by extension, with everything she's built so far. The WNBA itself feels these stakes just as much. Over the past year, Clark has become the engine driving record-breaking attendance, surging viewership, and unprecedented media coverage. Her jersey sales have shattered expectations, and her highlights dominate social media timelines in ways few athletes, male or female, can match. When she plays, sponsors invest more, broadcasters promote harder, and rivalries feel bigger. Her absence isn't just an Indiana problem. It leaves a hole in the league's momentum, one that can't be fully filled until she's back on the court. And then there's the personal side, the weight of her own reputation. Clark has never been just another player. From college stardom to professional phenom, she's been branded as the one to carry women's basketball into a new era. Her every game is scrutinized, her every stat dissected, her every move debated by fans and media alike. Coming back now means stepping under a spotlight brighter than ever before. If she dominates, her legend grows, perhaps cementing her as the undeniable face of the WNBA. But if she struggles or gets hurt again, the narrative could flip to vulnerability, and critics will question whether too much was placed on her too soon. That's what makes this return so compelling. It's not simply about Caitlin Clark picking up a basketball again. It's about whether she can handle the crushing weight of expectations, whether she can revive a team hanging by a thread, and whether she can keep fueling a league that has, in many ways, hitched its growth to her brilliance. This comeback is bigger than basketball. It's a gamble, a turning point, and possibly the defining chapter of her young career. The question isn't just if Caitlin Clark will return, it's whether she can rise above the stakes that now surround her every step.